Yes, everyone's reviewed the agenda and
Yes.
everyone approves of it. Do we actually need a motion to approve the agenda, Alyssa?
Why don't you?
I'll make a motion for approval of the agenda.
Second.
All in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Only because I wrote it, and so it's till you do that, it's not really your agenda. So.
Okay. There's no unfinished business. So let's go right to new business. And the first item is reviewing the revised ethics ordinance.
So I sent that to you today. I need to open it. Give me 1 second. You will notice that it is substantially changed. And the first thing that the first set of changes were to make the ordinance conform to the state model with respect to those specific items that we had originally changed 10 years ago when the big ethics legislation of the state happened. We had limited the required disclosure for elected officials to real property that was located in the city or that the elected officials obtained by or from or in conjunction with somebody who was doing business with the city. And we had limited the required disclosures of business interests to interests in entities that were doing business with the city. And we had limited the disclosure of family members' employment to employment by entities doing business with the city. And the council at the time felt, I think very rightfully, that those were the disclosures that were important to prevent actual conflicts of interest. But the state had issued this sort of one-size-fits-all model. And so the city ended up in conflict with the State Ethics Commission for many years, although it came to a standstill where we were all, in détente, I guess. So the new draft goes back and removes those limitations, basically. So now all the elected officials will have to disclose their interest in real property wherever it's located. They will have to disclose their interest in business entities, regardless of whether they're doing business with the city. They have to disclose their family members' employment, no matter who they are employed by. So that's one set of changes. There is another set of changes that
Just for clarity, real quick, Alyssa, has this ordinance already been approved by the city council? Or is it
not yet? Because I brought it to them. It was discussed. It was approved in concept. I was asked to send it to the State Ethics Commission for approval first. We just got that in August. I had thought it was going to go on the agenda, one of the earlier agendas, late August, early September, but it slipped. So we're going to get it on next Monday's agenda.
gotcha.
But because they have seen it and they have approved it in concept, I don't anticipate that there will be any changes made to the version that I sent you.
So the
council has approved it in concept?
Yes.
And the state has signed off on it as well?
Yes.
Oh,
assuming that it gets approved by council, then this will impact the way the forms look for next year.
Exactly. And so the other things that I sent you were markups of what the forms might look like. They're obviously not final versions because they've got strike through and underlining so that you can see exactly where they're going to need changes. But that's why we'll have to come back and have a meeting in December, early January.
Finalize.
Just to approve those. Yeah, because they'll have to go out at the beginning of January. The new approval date, which we've also moved in the ordinance to February to make both the filings by the elected officials and the filings by employees consistent. So it's going to be sort of really important that we get these out promptly after the first of the year.
And these changes, because I have not looked, because I got that email today, so I haven't really looked at everything in detail. but these changes are, they are impacted elected officials, not the simple form that you fill out for a commission and all
No,
that.
they actually do. They made a bunch of changes to require additional disclosure of key employees.
Oh, so I'll let you get to that then. Sorry.
So, yeah, they've gone from, they've gone from less restrictive than the state model to more disclosure. They're in a more disclosure mode these days. So,
The city, you mean? The city council.
yes,
Okay.
yes, the city council. So the second set of changes were changes to implement new state legislation that had come out in 2017 or 18. And those are not really major changes that I think anybody would have any objection to. They actually protect the home address of people who are filing disclosures and do a couple of other things like that. They make some more disclosures required with respect to lobbyists. And especially if you are married to a lobbyist, you need to disclose all of your spouse's clients. So those were a couple of changes that were made. And then the last set of changes were, hold on one second. Oh, I'm sorry. Where I was going was these changes that were made to go sort of above and beyond the disclosure requirements in the model, and those mostly pertain, in fact, to the key employees, appointed officials. And so now they will have to disclose if they're receiving income from other sources, from entities that are doing business with the city. There was some concern that we had some employees who had relationships with vendors that didn't look so good.
Is it just employment that you're receiving from an entity that does business with the city?
Yeah,
And
because unlike with elected officials, our interest in that disclosure is really very limited.
Okay, so it's just that you're with an entity that does business with the city. It doesn't mean that you operate within the city. It means that you do business with the city itself.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Or you have a personal relationship with a vendor. There's a requirement that if you have a personal relationship with persons doing business with the city or employed by an entity doing business with the city, that you disclose that.
How is a personal relation? Because that's sort of a.
Yeah. So we did define it, and it said we defined it as involving 2 or more private social engagements during the reporting period.
Okay.
The nature of the relationship does not need to be disclosed.
Okay. This gets kind of complex.
Yeah. I guess we're gonna see how that goes. That's I think something nobody else is doing, so we'll have to see. But it was, again, intended to address a specific problem we were perceiving. So let's see, I received earned income from the following business entities. I performed.
Is there any action you need tonight on the ethics ordinance, or do we come back in December for actual?
Yeah, I'm just sort of.
It's not for you to approve or recommend or anything, because this is really the city's document that they're going to pass, city council's document that they're going to pass. We're just charged with enforcing it, correct?
No, it's your form. Oh, the ordinance is theirs, but
the ordinance is there. Yeah, the ordinance is there. In other words, if I think that they are going too far, that doesn't really matter because they're the ones writing the ordinance, correct?
Well, one of your duties as the Ethics Commission is to make recommendations to the council about the enforcement of the ordinance, and if, as you are going forward, you have opinions on that, I don't see anything wrong with you taking a motion and sending them a letter conveying that thought.
Jamie, and I would suggest that we take a hard look at this ordinance, because I haven't reviewed what was sent to us today. But there's such a thing as going a bridge too far as well, or creating more problems than you solve by, excuse me, my phone's ringing, by making it overly complicated or subjective. That's what my concern is personal relationship depending on how the ordinance defines that, you know, if I see somebody Damien, if I see you at 2 events during the course of a social event during the course of a year, does that mean we have a personal relationship?
He's not doing business with the city, so you wouldn't have to disclose that. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It gets a little bit complicated, I think. That's my concern. So we can address that at a later point. So.
You can. So that's an overview of the ordinance.
First of all, I'm in a hotel room and periodically my screen says I have an unstable internet connection. So if I lose you, Dan, you have a proxy to speak for me on all subjects. But this whole thing seems to have changed direction. I mean, we viewed the state ordinance for so long as overkill and too obtrusive. Am I hearing you that now ours is worse?
Yeah.
I mean, worse is a pejorative word, but.
Yes, let me not use the word worse. But sentiment has shifted. Can we say that?
On the part of the council.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Not on the part of all of the council, and you can imagine who I'm talking about.
Right. Well, to take up Dan's suggestion, if we review it to make any kind of constructive recommendation, when are we going to have that to the council to have any impact?
Well, if you want to have a change made before the forms go out to the covered individuals in January, you'd have to do that soon. That doesn't mean that it can't be done later and apply to the financial disclosure forms filed for 2020. But yeah, you're working on a short time frame. I am at your service if you want to schedule another meeting in the near future. Let me know.
Damien, I think it might be a good idea to schedule a meeting sometime in October to maybe take a hard look at this after you and I and Kevin have all had a chance to really review everything, because I think that they could be creating as many problems as they think they might.
You broke up, but I see where you're going.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and it's within our right as an ethics commission, you know, they might not like it, but it's within our rights to correct me if I'm wrong, Elisa, to write a letter and say, we disagree with you.
Yeah. So, and actually, if you could do that before Monday, then they may agree to postpone, like they're going to do the introduction of the ordinance, but they're not doing adoption. So
could you convey to them? I mean, I don't know that we can get back, in all honesty. I mean, I don't know how everybody
especially
else.
Damien's on vacation.
I need some time to, like, you know, digest it and have time to really look at it. But could you at least I mean, I have no problem with them, you know, introducing it and starting to talk about it, but you could indicate that the Ethics Commission, I think if everybody agrees, might have some concerns about some of what's going on. And we would appreciate if they would, you know, put the brakes on a little bit to give us an opportunity that this is the first time we've seen it is today, and give us a little bit of time to digest it and maybe have some constructive comments back to them, if that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Are they still typically on a 2-week before introduction and final enactment?
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be 2 weeks. Right.
Okay.
I mean, I understand their desire, but I mean, there's no reason they can't wait till November to adopt it. You know what I mean? Beginning of November.
Right.
I would think so.
They could adopt it in December. I mean.
Well, true, because the forms really need to be ready by the first of the year.
Right. And even if we did that the first week of the year, there would still be adequate time for the employees to get their forms done.
Okay. I think we should does everybody agree? I think we should make our decision that we want some time to look at this, because I have not read it at all, but from the sounds of it, I'm concerned that what certain people might be thinking here, because they might be thinking they're solving a problem, but I would argue they're making problems.
Agree.
Yeah.
Well, we're right back to where we were 2 years ago, where you're going to discourage people from participating in local government. And
10 years.
it's absolutely likely to be overkill. And by the way, if we wanted to get together in October, I don't know if there's a city ordinance against this, we can go to my office and all
Great, you're breaking up.
clients every day with masks on. We can have the office for that purpose rather than Zoom, but it ought to be in October.
I'm fine in
Yeah.
October, but I will have to be virtual because I am I'm living with my father who, since my mother passed away, and I expect still to be here in October.
I'm fine with virtual. I think we can, if you have a better internet connection, we'll be fine.
Well, I will when I get back to civilization. I will. But
Yeah, and my concern, I understand what you're saying, but my concern, in addition to that, is the fact that depending on how this is written, I don't like when you have a ordinance where I got to sit and bang my head against the wall to try to figure out whether something is or isn't. And just from, the little bit of discussion we've had so far, I think things should be pretty clear. Like, if you want to know what properties I own and what your definition of, depending on what you consider being owned, like, because for instance, I'm a trustee for certain trusts, and I'll look through the ordinance and figure all that out. That's fine. If it's clear, but sometimes when you go into these other things, like personal relationship and whether somebody does business with the city, I might have a personal relationship with somebody that I have no clue whether they do business with the city or not, because it wouldn't necessarily come up. And I'm not going to call all my, quote, personal relationships and go, by the way, it's just, I'm concerned about the way that some of this might be worded.
Understood. I will point out, interestingly, now that you mention it, the key employees do not have to disclose their real estate interests, even if they are real estate interests in the city. So there's that. That is a thing you don't have to disclose at all. So.
Well, let me print that out and go through it with fine tooth comb. So,
Understood.
I'm sure Damien wants to do it as well, and Kevin, so we can all figure that out.
yeah, we'll set up a subsequent meeting to review it more closely in October.
Okay. Do you want to do that now?
Sure.
Okay.
Just pick a day.
My calendar. Let's see. So the week of Columbus Day, so the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 13, 14, 15, I have nothing.
That's workable on my end.
Fine.
Oh, actually, I can do it the Tuesday, the 6th also, which is
Want to do
sooner.
5 o'clock on, what's that?
I'm sorry, I could do the 6th, which is
Let's
sooner.
do the week of the 13th, actually, if you don't mind.
Okay, all right.
You want to do Tuesday the 13th
That works.
Sure,
at 5 o'clock?
got it.
Okay.
And that meeting will just be for us to kind of review this in detail.
Yeah, and if you can review it in advance, and then we can get right to the meat of it.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, so hold on, let me put this on my calendar.
And we're pretty sure it will not be finally enacted by then?
It will not be.
Okay.
Well, and also she can express to them the fact that we're looking at it. And Elisa, when you send it to us, or can you resend it to us? And is there some way for you to highlight what is different, what's in addition to what the state requires? Because
Oh,
I
yeah,
have different feelings. Like, if the state requires it,
Yeah.
I might not. That's a consideration for me. If the state doesn't require it and we're requiring it, then I'm going to look at it harder.
so everything, all of the additions on the key employee, appointed official forms. All of that is not required. Your prior form was conforming.
So it was listed as the short form, and then
Yeah.
another was the long form.
The short form is the one where you've got lots of stuff and all the extra stuff that's added in caps. That's all not required by state law.
I looked at the long form, and Daniel, you will look at it like me. I wondered why they even asked that.
Got you.
Yeah, so
Well, if you don't mind just clarifying it, you know what I mean?
I can do that specifically on the long form.
When I'm looking at it.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I didn't mean to talk. No, it's me. I have a bad habit of talking. In particular, on the long form, I will highlight it because the short form's easy. It's everything that's in caps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thanks.
Sure.
All right, do we want to move on to the financial disclosure forms?
Yeah, so you all have all of the packets. Do you want to start with the staff with the short forms?
Sure. And I looked at everything ahead of time. I don't know if everybody else did too. The only one, Damien, I had a question was on yours actually, because you dated it January. It looks like you maybe accidentally dated it the wrong year, because it looks like it's the 19, where I'm assuming you meant the 20th. I mean, 2020.
Mhm. I did.
Oh,
So you signed this in 2020, is that not correct? January
I'm
2020.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on one second. Let me get to that group of forms. Do you all have the ability to add text in a PDF document? Any of you know how to do that?
I do, yes, I think.
Because one way we could handle these, we usually initial them. But we all have different sets now, right? And we're not going to be all in the same room. And I don't want to send the whole package around around the group. So I was going to ask you if we could initial electronically and then send your individual packets back to Shannon. It's not pretty, but it's one way of accomplishing the goal.
Or the other way, could I just not initial them? Could I just not initial them and drop them back off at city office?
You could. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
that would be easy.
forget you're there. I'm like here in Silver Spring. So yes, you could.
That sounds like much easier for me.
I'm sorry. Let's pretend I never said any of that.
Okay, so you want us to initial, you prefer us to initial each form that we reviewed it and drop it off that way. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Feel free to do it electronically if you like.
Is someone in the city in particular?
Shannon.
Shannon? Gotcha.
Okay. Are we going to this committee's forms first?
I looked through all the short firms. The only one I had any question about was Damien's
Okay.
because of the date. Everybody else has looked in order to me.
Kevin and Damien, did you have a chance to look at them?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I
Did you
didn't
see
have any
anything?
problem with it. Yeah,
All right.
it's fine
Great.
with me.
Fantastic. Then
How
just
would he address Damien's form? Because he's acknowledging that he did it in 2020, not 2019. So how should he acknowledge that?
Maybe he can re-sign it when he gets back to the office or redate it and initial
I'll
it
do
and
that.
send it to me and I'll recirculate it.
Okay, cool. You can do it that way.
I'll do it that way. Do we want to do the next bundle, P and Z?
Yeah.
Any questions as to the planning and zoning?
No, I didn't have any questions about anyone but you, my friend. That was it. On any of the short forms.
I'm fine with zoning's packet.
Right. Okay. And city staff?
Didn't
I
see
really
any.
loved that Bill Mackey gave us pictures of his gift.
Yeah, I thought he gets a gold star for being a little obsessive compulsive. Okay. God bless him.
Yes.
Good.
He's better than me. He must be very conscious of it because I would not remember if someone gave me an ice scraper
10.
6 months ago. That's why, if you notice on my form, I said to the best of my knowledge and belief, because I don't,
Me also. Me
I
also.
don't remember something like that. It would have to be significant for me to remember something.
Okay.
Does that just leave the elected officials?
I think so, and I did have several. It seems like some of our elected officials, no offense to them, have trouble. Like, I think they sometimes don't read the form as carefully as they should.
That is true.
Did you guys want to get into that yet? I'm still initialing everything, but I can stop that and jump to that.
Yeah, why don't you highlight the issues you have with the elected official forms?
Okay. In no particular order. First off, Ben Yingling. He, on the page 3, Alyssa, he
Yeah.
marks no to question A and B,
All right.
but then in the form itself marks yes.
Okay, hold on. I gotta get to his form.
Yeah, Ben.
So much paper.
You got his form?
1 second, I'm getting there.
Okay, no.
Got it. Yes, I'm with you.
Okay. On page 3, he marks to question A and question B, he marks no. But
Yes.
then in the body of the form itself, he marks yes.
Yeah, so we will need to get him to amend page 3.
Make sure I didn't have any other. Oh, and then for instance, on G, on page 4 of 11, he marks yes, but then within the body of the form on page 10 of 11, he marks no. So I'm like, they need to.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he was very tired that evening.
And I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, when I read G, it means whether you have a job, basically.
Yes, it does.
And he says he doesn't have a job. And I know that not to be correct. The other thing under page 4 of 11,
Well, can I just back up?
yes,
We're on D or G, did you say?
on G,
Okay.
on G as in Gabriel, on page 4 of 11, he marks yes.
Yeah.
But then within the body itself, on page 10 of 11, he marks no. And I'm pretty sure he meant to say yes because he is employed,
Right.
and I imagine his wife is as well, though I don't know for sure where she works or anything.
Yeah, and if he is, then D is wrong too, I think.
Depending on where they work, yeah.
Yeah.
And then also on page 4 of 11, you might want to just make sure he understands the term encumbrance, because encumbrance means if you have a mortgage.
Right.
Then it basically is implying he does not have a mortgage against his property. I'm not sure that's correct. Maybe he wasn't. But he,
Maybe not.
people don't understand what encumbrance means. So he just needs to take a harder look at this form and fill it out.
Yeah. It might be that he thought the yes column was the no column.
I don't know. But it's a mess and we can't sign off the way it is.
Indeed. Okay.
Does anyone else have anything else in reference to Ben? Ben's form? Kevin, Damien?
No.
I don't, no.
Okay. And then I had Tony's form. And again, on Tony's form, Alyssa, on page 4 of 11, under G, he marked no for employment. And again, maybe he misunderstood the question because I know he is employed.
Right.
Well, maybe he was construing self-employment to be different.
Yeah.
You know, that could be one reason.
It says, I received a salary or was the sole or partial owner of a business entity. He definitely is
Hmm.
one of those things.
Right.
Okay.
So on G, he needs to address that. That's the only thing I saw in that form that looked incorrect to me,
Okay.
you know, my knowledge. Did anyone have anything else on Tony's form?
Yeah, I think he almost has to answer yes to that.
Yeah, I'm pretty, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Okay, that's the only thing I had on his form that looked obvious. Again, I think they just need to take a little bit more, these forms are a little bit hard sometimes when you're reading through them. I think they just need to take a little bit more time to be careful how they fill it out. And then with Joe Dominic, he answers on page 3 of 11 to question A, he answers no. And I'm assuming he probably owns, but yet, yeah, well, and then when you go to page 4 of 11, he doesn't answer the question at all, but then there's a note that he and his wife own the property together. So he just did not fill out that part of the form. So he needs to, I think on page 3 of 11, on A, it should be checked yes.
Yeah.
And he actually needs to fill out the details on page 4 of 11.
Yeah.
Well, if he's a co-owner, that qualifies.
Yeah.
Correct. Otherwise, everything else about his form looked fine,
Okay.
or no obvious mistakes. Did anyone else see anything else related to Joe's?
No.
No. Mhm.
And then, okay, on Greg's, on page 4 of 11, under Schedule A, he checked off no, but then proceeds to complete the form where it should be, he should have checked yes. So I think that was just an error on his part. Because he checked yes on page 3 of 11, but then checks no on page 4 of 11 to the same question, and then proceeds to fill out all the information as if he's checking yes.
I think you just missed the box. Yeah.
And that was the only thing I saw on his form that obviously looked like it was incorrect.
Okay.
And then for Kevin and Ann's forms, they get a gold star because nothing obviously looked incorrect to me. So good for them.
I'm looking at Kevin's page 3 of 11, 3D. The answer is yes to a member of the family having an office, a salaried employment with an entity doing business with the city.
And then he answers that it's his wife is the
Schedule-
treasurer of the fire company.
Schedule D. Oh, okay, okay.
If he's still getting any income from the
Fire company.
from the newspaper, they are on the list of businesses doing. I think they're on the list because we do advertise in the Sun.
Oh, yeah, because he reported that as a place of employment, but isn't he supposed to check somewhere else if it's something a company that does business with it or the city does business with it?
Yeah, that would be on D also.
They pay him for that column?
Yes, I understand. So you're right. Yeah, that's a good point. Because technically, you all advertise through the Baltimore Sun or the Carroll County Times, which is owned by the
Which
Baltimore
is
Sun.
owned by the Sun, right?
Yeah, so you might need to clarify. He just probably didn't. It probably just didn't register in his head. So yeah, he probably should update his form. Good catch. So a no initial for his form.
No, only Anne gets a star.
Only Ann gets the star.
Yeah.
So you're gonna. And so when you get the revised forms back, and maybe we can address those revised forms when we meet in October, then we'll just print them out and do the same thing, initial them if they're correct, and return them to Shannon.
Okay.
Gotcha. Perfect.
So do I hear you all directing me to send emails to the individuals involved?
Correct.
And,
Yes.
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 And I'm assuming you'll give them a little bit of guidance so they know what was wrong, if possible. Or
yeah,
what-
yeah, no, I will try to put in the email the things that you all identified just now.
Okay. Did anybody else have any other forms that they noticed that were incorrect or they had a question about?
No, that was the last bundle, I think, the elected officials.
Yes.
And even though Bill Mackey no longer works for the city of Westminster, we should send him a gold star for over compliance. God bless his soul.
I feel like it's time for me to send him a note that says hello, so I'll just send him a note and say,
We
hey,
probably gave
good
him
job.
a gold star for being overly compliant. Tell him that Dan was very impressed with his effort.
Very impressed.
Okay.
Alyssa, is there anything further as to the annual state certification?
So they sent a fillable version of the form this year that I can send you. You can just type your name in it. However, I think we can't file it till we get compliance from our friends. So, so we'll hold that for we'll be a little bit late, but they don't care.
Okay.
This is, as far as I know, the first year they're even paying attention to who files the October certification. They sent out little notices reminding people to file it. So,
Okay.
all right. And the advantage to that is you'll be back in your office and you can do the fillable form there.
Because Damien has to fill out, as the chair, has to fill out a form with the state that says that we've done.
It
Done.
says the city is in compliance with state law, which we've been filling out since the beginning because we thought we were.
Gotcha.
It's always debatable, right? That was our
It's a
position.
matter of opinion. We believed we were compliant.
How long did that go on? Was it 5 years?
Yeah.
7 years?
Well, it's only this year that we're actually giving up the ghost on that
Right,
battle.
right,
So
right.
10,
I thought so.
actually,
I thought so.
or
'Cause-
eight, I guess 8. It was shortly after I started with y'all.
Okay.
yeah, okay. Do we want to set the meeting for December for the disclosure forms?
That'd be great.
You want to get that on the calendar now, in addition to the one that we did for October 13th? So it's there, Damien?
I think so. I mean, it's easier to book it now than it will be 2 months from now.
Especially with holiday and all that.
Especially since we're probably going to by November 5th. I can't hear anybody. Wait, there we go.
You're breaking, yeah, your internet
Okay.
a little back.
Anytime in December, I'm wide open. So,
Gentlemen, either of you have a preference?
Uh,
Free.
not necessarily. I'd rather do it earlier in the month than later.
first week, maybe?
Yeah, we could do, what about Tuesday the 1st?
That's fine with me.
Or
Yeah,
would you rather do the next week for whatever reason?
Sorry, what was that?
Or would you rather do the next week, the 8th?
I'd actually rather do the 1st, if that's okay with you guys.
I'm fine with that. Same
That's
time, 5 o'clock?
Yeah, that's good. Tuesday?
Tuesday, yep. Tuesday's a good day.
Okay.
Maybe I'll be able to venture out of my house by then.
Maybe the world will look different by December the 1st. We shall see.
I hope so.
I hope so at some point too.
Okay, any other business?
I think we're good.
good.
Okay. Does someone
Thank
like
y'all.
Alyssa, anything?
Nope, thank you very much for all your time this evening.
I'll make a motion then for adjournment.
All right, the motion to
Yeah.
adjourn?
Second.
I think Damien said that all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
No, I'm back. My internet went down, but now I'm back. All right, so there was a motion to adjourn, right?
Yes, and we second and we said yes.
It was unanimous. Good. All right.
Thank you all. You all have a wonderful night.
I will see you all soon.
You too. Good night.
Night.
Take care, Kevin.
Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.